welcome to Cappuccino with HR. My name is Rudi Bauer, and I am, after nearly 40 years in business, 100% sure that the power and success of companies is heavily related to the passion of the people working for them. With Cappuccino with HR, we created a format at WeAreDevelopers, which is really designed for HR professionals, recruiters, and leaders to meet over a cup of coffee and have often discussions on everything from HR trends and leadership to sourcing of talent acquisition and to the life cycle within companies. No really set agenda, just nice conversations with people that we invite as our guests. Yeah, hello and welcome to a new episode of Cappuccino with HR. And today we are talking about a topic which I think has become incredibly important within the last couple of years. And in today's life, I think it's mental health. And I'm really delighted to have Marie Chaprioniere as my guest today. Hi, Marie. I'm really happy that you take your time and that you share your thoughts and ideas and personal experiences with us. We met in Amsterdam a couple of days ago and we had a kind of a pre-session just talking about the topic itself. And I was really impressed by your personal openness to talk about the topic as well. So, and before we start, I would really ask you to introduce yourself in a few sentences that people get you to know.
Great. Yeah. Thanks a lot for having me. I'm super excited to be here. I think the topics are really personal also to me, right? And I think that gives me like a deeper understanding and empathy of the topic itself because I'm kind of living through burnout and mental health challenges, and I talk about these quite openly. So yeah, I'm Marie Chaprioniere. I am a senior TA manager for Protolabs, based here in Amsterdam. And this year I was diagnosed with ADHD. So I'm very open about my journey. I talk a lot about unmasking, leaving our mask at the door. So I really champion human conversations and showing up as we are, because I think we have a really long way to get to if we want people to actually bring their full selves to work. So, yeah, I'm grateful for these opportunities to be able to share and to dive into these topics.
Mm. Yeah, that's really. I'm really thankful that you said yes, because I mean, it's always to talk about this topic in theory and to talk about this topic coming from scientific backgrounds and having read some scientific books is one thing. Reading some surveys and getting some kind of numbers and figures is another thing. But really having a kind of a personal view on it and the personal challenges and threats and I think that makes the story even more interesting, and that I'm really thankful that you said yes to join us. My first question, as it's called Cappuccino with HR, what is your favorite coffee?
I think my go-to is always a latte with oat milk.
Okay, wonderful. I've got a cappuccino on my desk, as it's called Cappuccino with HR, so I'm good with a cappuccino today.
Nice.
Um,
I have
and,
a tall latte with oat milk.
very good, very good. I want to start with a thing because we did some surveys and we are into the business with software developers, and I mean that's our business, and we have a community and we taking care about the community, and of course we also use our community to get a kind of a clue what's going on, what are the changes in the market, and what we've seen. I think we started with the surveys somewhere in 2019 or 2018 already, and what we have really seen with this kind of now having it in a series of 5 to 6 years, that well-being and mental health has really become really important issues. So we had times where salary was the most important. We had times where work-life balance was the most important, and now we see that mental health, inclusion, and well-being are becoming more and more important from year over year. The numbers are really increasing by a percentage of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 more percent, which people state that that's the most important thing. Have you got a kind of an explanation why this is like this?
Yeah. I think there is, of course, like a movement happening right now, right? People are realizing the benefit to taking care of themselves, this self care, which we often forget about, particularly in the workplace. But I think it's been a rise since COVID, to be honest. Um, COVID was a time where it brought a lot of change. It brought a lot of reflection to us as individuals and what we need out of our working life and personal lives. And so much of our personal lives and our working lives become so entangled now with the remote working culture, the flexible working culture, the work from anywhere culture. And we're then expected to go back into the workplace and bring a version of ourselves that is a professional version, leaving a lot of those stigmas at the door, such as mental health, such as personal challenges or things that we're facing at home. And we're forgetting about the human aspect of who we are. And I think when we do that and we're not prioritizing time for those conversations for people to be able to show up and say, like, today's a bad day, today's not a good day, or, I'm going through X, Y, and Z with a family member. We're still hesitant to show up as ourselves. And I think that is the cause of anxiety, mental health, and burnout. Um,
Mhm. I read a LinkedIn post from you today in the morning, and I stopped by a really nice graphics. It said, "I hope you heal from the things you don't talk about." Why have you picked and choose this one? I mean, I was really catched by it. Yeah. And then I wrote the subtext, and we're talking about this in a minute. But why have you picked and choose that? Do you think that's part of the problem?
yeah. I think from my own personal experience, I have been through burnout in this year, kind of going through that process and mental health challenges, particularly with the diagnosis of ADHD. And one thing that has helped me heal is conversation, is
Hmm.
showing up and talking about what's going on, whether that's in therapy, whether that's publicly sharing, on LinkedIn, or getting into the office and talking about what I'm going through. Um, and so that's the purpose of my post, because one of the stats in there was actually mentioning, I think it's 1 in 5 Dutch
Hmm.
employees report burnout
Hmm. Hmm.
symptoms, and a lot of those symptoms are because we are still challenged with these stigmas of what we can and can't say, what we want to talk about. So I really want to encourage people to start a conversation. I think that's one of the most important things that we could do as leaders, making time for our teams or our co-workers to say, like, hey, I really care about the goals. We really care about the performance, but even more so, I care about you.
Hmm.
How are you doing? What's going on
Hmm.
with you in your world? Giving people that time to feel safe and
Hmm.
understood and heard, which I think we're not doing enough of.
Hmm. Uh, I mean, you made a kind of a really nice intro summary with reasons that could cause these kind of problems, and I, I never saw such a long list before. And honestly, I was nodding at every single point. I said, "Yes, that's also part of it. That's also part of it. That's also part of it." And I just tried to read some of them. So it was burnout, it was stress, it was mental health, it was sexual orientation, because I think that's also a topic where companies are not on. We as society are not really good in accepting that. It's religion, of course. We have a lot of discussions on that, but it's also family, it's therapy, it's financial struggles. And what does that mean for leaders in companies? What does that mean for managers if they want to take that serious?
Yeah.
How was is your personal experience when you mentioned it the first time in your company, uh, that you're probably suffering because of one of these topics? What
Mm.
was the reaction?
Yeah, I think that it's a really tricky one because we get it, right? I think you understand that we should make time for people to show up, work within the environments and the hours and so on that they can work in, or they that benefits them. We should, and we do understand that we want people to show up exactly as themselves, but at the same time we're kind of in this middle phase of we don't really know how to balance, hitting our goals and stuck in this traditional ways of thinking and working, um, and also accept people as they are. So it's a really difficult one. From my personal experience, talking about my ADHD within my company, it's kind of one of those things that you bring up, you announce, you share, and you want to talk about the whole entire journey. But on the other side, people just don't know how to ask or respond to what's going on. The same thing with if you're going through fertility problems, if you're going through chemotherapy or cancer treatments, if you've just lost a loved one, for example, people don't know how to ask what is acceptable, what's okay, what's out of their boundaries, what's not. So I think we still have a really long way to go. Um, but it almost starts with us, right? Um, and that's why I keep going back to the conversation. I think it's so important to be comfortable sharing whatever it is that you're comfortable sharing. You don't need to overstep your boundaries, of course. Same with my ADHD. I'm actually very open. I talk about medication, I talk about therapy.
Mm.
um, but yeah, I also share what's within my boundary.
Mm. I mean, if somebody meets uh, people like you that are willing to talk openly about it, I mean, that's also, I think, learning how to deal with it is at the best is talking about it. I mean, for
Yeah.
both sides, for both sides. But one of the statements that you mentioned on LinkedIn, that was only 27% feel they can bring their whole selves to work, and only 43% feel comfortable. So it's less than a half in discussing these personal issues. What's your tip to the people outside? I mean, there's two sides. I mean, I think there's a lot of leaders and managers are willing to take that topic seriously. Yeah. But if the other side is not willing to talk about it and to really bring it in a kind of an open way to the leaders and telling them, okay, I had a shitty night because we have some problems within the family, or whatever
Mhm.
the reason could be, then it's really difficult, because then you probably are forced as a manager to read minds, yeah, to read
Yeah.
to understand and see the unsaid, yeah. I mean, which
Yeah.
is really.
It is really difficult. I think then you also, as a leader, you have to ask yourself a question like, why does this person not feel comfortable to share? I might think I'm doing a great job. I might think I'm creating a safe environment, but they clearly don't feel that this is a safe environment to share. And not everyone has to be open, not everyone has to share and to talk. You can do this in certain ways in which you feel comfortable. I think as a leader, it's about bit by bit, opening the door to say yourself. Like if somebody says to you, I'm going through a breakup, I'm having a really hard day. Often, I think what we hear is this kind of like positive spin on shit, bad situations. Like, "Oh, okay, yeah, I also went through a breakup." Like, "You'll get over it. You'll meet somebody else." Like, no, that's also not the answer. Like, the answer can also be like, "That's rubbish. I bet you feel terrible and that you're going through a really hard time. Like, what can I do for you? Like, how can I
Mhm,
help? Like, how can I make you smile today?"
mhm,
I think it's as simple as that. From
mhm,
a manager, I think we expect some, like, written rule book on how we need to communicate about these things, but
mhm,
there isn't one. I think it's just creating space, and make it conversational, make it as humane as
Hmm.
possible. I think we often spend too much time kind of going into those conversations and, okay, so today we're going to sit down and we're going to review like you as a person. We'll tick off the box and ask them how are they, and we'll get straight into a work related conversation. But it doesn't feel comfortable often to
Hmm.
kind of, yeah, challenge yourself in that way. So
And I think that from a business perspective, I mean, because on one hand, I think we are stuck in our business world and are really stuck in shareholder value and productivity increases. I mean, that's I think that where managers are forced to think into that direction as well. So and I'm long I'm in managing positions now for many years, and it's very difficult, and that's my personal experience as well, to always keep the balance, to talk to the people with the in the human mode and the employees, and on the other hand to get the right answers for the shareholders as well. But
of
to
course.
to to show how important that is for both sides. I mean, you also mentioned one line in the last one in your post was that the absenteeism just for Dutch and Netherlands businesses is around 11 billion euros because of loss of 11 billion euros, which is an incredible amount. Yeah, and I think that probably is the answer for shareholders and shareholder value. If they get that right, I mean, it saves a hell of a lot of money as well. So
Mhm.
probably it's definitely worth thinking about it. Yeah. Uh, what was what was your best experience along your journey, and what was the worst, if you want to talk about it? So who did it best, or not the person itself, but what was the best experience you had along this way, and what was probably the worst reaction that you got along that way?
You mean talking about my
Yeah, being
mental
in this
health
situation,
challenge?
talking about it, and what was the most crappy answer you probably got, and what was the most healing one?
Yeah, I think the hardest part is people recognizing too late, even myself, recognizing too late, and people, managers, I'm a leader, but I also have managers, and it's no fault of anyone's, but we are kind of at that point where burnout's already hit. Mental health is almost exploded, and it's at that point that people try to come with solutions to help you, but it's too late. I think the that's the hardest thing to kind of recognize. Probably my toughest moments have been that I'm great at putting on a mask. I grew up in performing arts. I know how to put that performance on from the go. And I think the hardest part is actually admitting I'm not okay. I'm really suffering. But it was when finally the closest people that I worked with, the people within my relationship, my family would come to me and say, "We're all worried about you.
Mhm.
You're different. The spark's gone. There's no spark
Mhm.
in your eyes. You're not lighting up rooms like you as you
Normal.
used to, and you're kind of walking around the office as in you're just here in body, but not
Yeah.
in,
So,
your spirit, and your soul's gone."
yeah.
Uh, so that's been that was the toughest moment, I would say. It's not a negative, but it was that moment of realization when,
Mhm.
it was unfortunately too late. The best part of this is that I focus so much on my self-care now. I still have bad days, but I am finally seeing the light and being so open, being so vulnerable. I have found my people. I found people that I want to connect with. I found people that are seeing value in the things that I'm sharing, that I'm talking about, and it's helping other people either, unmask themselves, go for a diagnosis, or talk about, hey, I've got depression and I'm on medication, and I've never shared this with anyone in all the years that I've done that. So it's the sense of creating a space where other people feel seen and heard.
Mhm.
That's probably the best part of it.
Mhm.
Um, and I would just add one thing onto that, is that I'm feeling over the last few weeks is I have a new energy. I have an energy that I haven't experienced for years.
Mm.
I have so many ideas,
Yeah.
so many things I'm interested in, um,
Mhm.
and surrounded by like a new growth of people, which
Mhm.
I'm also extremely excited about. So
Mhm.
I don't want to burn myself out again, but watch this space.
Uh, yeah. And if you want to, I mean, if you're a leader in an organization, if you want to set it up in a kind of a way that you treat it right, that you really take care about your team and your people, is there any kind of routines? Because I think it's always easiest to start with a routine. Yeah, not wait until it happens and the first one is the first member of your team is on stage and tells
Yeah.
you, okay, I'm now in this situation. Is there a kind of a tip of a routine that you could give to leaders, uh, or companies, to really set it up in a kind of a way that, I don't know if it's an ESG, some kind of focus groups, which is really okay. You meet regularly and talk about it. Kind of put people together in a room and say, okay, let's talk about your well-being, or having a barometer somewhere which indicates you. Or what could be done to set it up as a kind of a, in small steps, as a routine, not to forget it. I mean, it shouldn't be treated as a routine, of course not, because it's very individual, but to get this kind of awareness on it.
Yeah. I mean, I think it's taking the human approach first, right? Um, People don't want to be micromanaged. They want to feel comfortable to say, I'm taking my dog to the vet today because the dog's unwell. I'm logging off for a couple of hours, and that be okay. It's about creating those types of environments where people are comfortable to manage their own and are trusted to manage their own time. It is feeding it into the conversation. We don't need to go off into a room and talk about our well-being and our mental health, because then it almost feels forced.
Yeah, yeah.
Right? It's also a
Mm,
bit cringy, and it's uncomfortable. We need it to be natural and comfortable. So
mhm,
one of the things that I used to do with my team without thinking about it, Miro boards are really good for this as well, right?
mhm,
So
mhm,
we used to do a health check. So before we get into our weekly start, stop, continue retrospects
mhm,
with the team,
mhm.
we'd go in and we would do a health check, and we'd make it fun, we'd make it interactive.
Yeah.
So everyone would put a sticky note on the board from a thermometer to say, like, where are you at today? What's
Mhm,
your level? And
mhm,
the next part of that is like, what's holding you back?
mhm.
Why are you not a 10 today? Why are you just a 4? And it
Okay.
could be, well, I missed my train this morning on the way to work.
Mhm,
Feel really crap about that, or didn't get any sleep the night before. And
mhm,
I'm having a slow day. And so when you understand your people, the people that you're working with, you have a newfound level of empathy.
mhm,
You can empathize with, okay, this person is having a slow day, but I already know why, because we already discussed it and they were comfortable to,
mhm, mhm,
share why. If you don't know those things, you have an expectation that we should all be really high performing at the same level at the same time, and that's
mhm.
just not reality. So
Yeah.
it could be as simple as that.
I think that's a really good routine. I mean, starting meetings with a kind of a barometer. Where are you today? And why? Yeah, I think that's already the first step into direction to get also this openness. And to, I think it's also important that people, I mean, not all the people that you have in your teams are as reflected as you are. So I
Mhm.
think lot of lot of people don't even know that they feel worse because they feel worse, but they don't know why, and they have never thought about probably never thought about it. And that would
100%.
yeah, I mean that would be my next question. How could you empower teams as a leader to prioritize their mental health? Because uh,
Mm.
some of them are not even aware of that they're really not doing well, and they're probably on total wrong track for the personal well-being. So how do you empower people to get this also as a routine that people start thinking about it? Because I met some people, they were really workaholics, and
Mm.
you nearly had to force them to take care about themselves. So,
Yeah, exactly. It is. I think the reality is that people will crash and burn. And it's until maybe you go through that you do not understand what you need to do. I saw myself as somebody that was prioritizing my well-being, my mental health. I was going to the gym, I had a routine, I was doing my yoga, I was doing all the woo-woo stuff to make me feel good, but I was disassociating. I was disassociating. I think that um, it really it's again, it does sound, it does sound woo woo, but without it sounding that way, it really starts with within, starts from within. Like we can't pour from an empty cup. And oftentimes we are firefighting, we're running on really low batteries, but you have to get to know yourself. You have to take the time to say, I can't attend every meeting. I can't attend every networking event. So the first thing that you need to do is understand, like, what are my boundaries? What wears me out? What takes my energy? What doesn't?
mhm,
Socially, where am I at?
mhm,
And that's the example that you need to start setting also with yourself, but then with your team to
mhm,
show them that actually, we need to push, you need to push back or you need to delegate. I think it's somewhat
mhm,
easier for a leader
mhm,
to
mhm,
know that, okay, I can delegate these tasks to my team. For an IC, you know, how are they able to reflect and to
mhm,
delegate? And I think that's also part of our job as a leader, right? To be able to spot these signs kind of early on.
mhm,
Um, by having regular check-ins, by
mhm,
acknowledging, okay, this person's attending too many meetings, or
mhm,
they may be not as engaged as they used to be, because you can see engagement whether it's in person or remote engagement.
mhm,
um, so it's the check-ins, it's the small stuff, it's the awareness, self-awareness, and the awareness of people around you. um, Not being afraid to also, what I've done in the past when things have been hectic is schedule a day where we don't have any meetings this day. This is the day where our teams do not have any meetings. You can roll this out globally. You can do it just within your tech teams. You can do it within your recruitment teams, but have a day where you say no to meetings. And it's really hard,
yeah,
but we have to get into that habit, and as leaders, not break that.
yeah, yeah. And I think it needs also the braveness to say no from time to time, to really stand up and say, no, I'm not doing that. I'm not willing to do that. I have no energy to do that. I think to also be bold enough to say no. I think
Yeah,
that's really,
yeah,
and that needs to be trained. I think that's really like doing pump ups or doing a kind of sit ups. I think it's really kind of training. Yeah, you
it
really have to train them.
is. It really
Yeah,
is. Like,
yeah,
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 for sure, because you want to do everything, right? And I think
yeah.
that is the cause of burnout. It's the lack of boundaries that we have. And so we need to create this environment where rest and healing is a
Hmm.
priority just as much as achieving your goals and
Hmm.
your KPIs. But rest and healing is a priority.
Yeah, yeah. Um, as we are really, I'm looking on the recording button and it says that we are already talked
We are.
nearly 30 minutes.
We can go
So,
on. You are talking to somebody with ADHD, so we can go down many rabbit holes.
I think that we could probably continue for another 2 hours. And
Mm.
But I think there's, as we have unlimited number of Cappuccino with HR episodes, so we probably will have a continued talk on that, because I really
Sure.
really love this openness, and also your private kind of openness to talk about it. I have a final question for you, Marie. If you look into the future, what is the change you would love to see, or what do you think is most important to get this right from company side and for employees? What is this one thing you would like to see that it changes?
Yeah. I really dislike when I'm hearing across the board, bring your full self to work, right? Because we are not ready for that. We are not ready for people to bring their full selves to work. We love the idea, you know, we love the idea. We want diversity. We want people to come in with all of their problems, but we're not ready for that. So think we need to take baby steps for sure. Um, I see the future of, tech and businesses in general creating space and creating time to have these open, vulnerable conversations. Not saying that having a conversation is going to solve everything, but it for sure allows us to feel a little bit lighter when we do step in, and that we're ready to actually get stuff done, and because we've laid things out on the table.
That was a really cool closing. Thank you very much for being with me. Thank you very much for joining us, and thank you for taking the time. The audience out there, please stay tuned. There's more episodes to come. I think this one, I really loved it because I think it was very personal. It was very human, and I think it was a topic which is really has have to have highest priority in organizations, not
Yeah,
only from the money point of view. I think humans are the biggest asset that we have in our companies, and we should really take care about them.
yeah.
Thank you so much, Marie. It was a pleasure having you as guest. And yeah, looking forward to what comes next.
Thanks a lot
Goodbye.
for having
Thank
me.
you.
Bye.